My name's Creme. Welcome to My Vintage. And there's a selection of videos here that I've made that, for several reasons, some I just love the singers, some I love the songs, and some I love the videos, the actual videos. I've made them, I've been in them, I've watched them. Videos been a big part of my life, I suppose. Hope you enjoy them. I'm going to talk about ZZ Top now because I don't often get a chance to hear ZZ Top, and when I do it always brightens me up, and it's because I picture them. And so what better way to do it than with video, right? I love those beards. I like the music, but the guys are such characters, aren't they? And I remember being on the road and they checked into a hotel, and we checked into a hotel years ago when we were on the road. All I could think of was the beards. And those outfits, the hats they wear, I mean, they make a great noise for American rock and roll. I think of them very fondly as American rock and rollers. So here's ZZ Top with a cracking classic track of theirs, Legs. So it must have been back in about 89, 90. And after working for 25 years with Kev Godley, I was working on my own for the first time, and I went to Los Angeles to try and start making a living out of there. And I managed to get this job, and it was a television commercial. I was concentrating on that fully, and it was with Tina Turner, and it was for all these range of Plymouth motor cars. 17 spots I had to do, and I was so nervous, my first job on my own, and I was desperate to make a good job of this, my first job on my own ever. And Roger, Tina's manager, all he could think about was Tina's new video for her new song. It's the last thing I wanted to hear about. I was concentrating on these motor cars and how I would film the motor cars and put Tina in there and make it all look marvellous. 17 of them, not one. But Roger was rattling on about Tina's new song, Simply the Best, and he eventually it hammered me down, really, sort of. And I said, "Okay, Roger, we'll do the video." And we had to do it because I didn't want the Ford people, the Plymouth people, to know that I was doing it, because they'd have been extremely pissed off if they'd found out I was thinking about anything other than their 17 commercials. So we did it at night over a weekend, and we went out to the desert. And with the idea that I came up with involved Tina riding this horse, because, when you saw the way she danced about, made me think of a horse, and she was thrilled with this, and she actually learnt to ride a horse. And I remember that, do you remember the woman in Dallas that shot JR, Bing Crosby's daughter? She taught Tina how to ride the horse. So this video reminds me of those nerve-wracking days of starting on my own. I was 40 odd, and I had a marvellous time, I have to say. So here's Tina Turner and Simply the Best. They bring certain great memories to mind. And with this one, which is the Police doing Wrapped Around Your Finger, the memory of this one was all those candles that Sting danced around these candles singing the song. I don't know if you remember it, but you'll soon see. But the thing that I remember overall was that was exactly 999 candles in the studio, laid out so that we could, mess about with cameras and cranes and God knows what. But 99 candles had to be lit and put out when you'd finished a take, otherwise the candles wouldn't last very long. And one guy's job was to light the candles, and then with those little cone-shaped snuffers, put them all out. And by the time he'd put 999 candles out each time, it was time to start again and do the next take. And the poor guy had to start lighting 999 candles from scratch again. And he did this all day and all night. He put them out, lit them, put them out. Ron, his name was. This is a tribute to Ron. The Police and Wrapped Around Your Finger. Most times the videos I like are very entertaining, and they lift me up. It's not often that I watch a video to be deeply moved, but there's no question that this video is deeply, deeply moving, and it's because of seeing this gentleman so soon before he actually dies, passes away, it is moving. And you look in that guy's face, you're seeing him, it's such an honest performance, and the life that he's led, it's just extraordinary, and you can see it all in that face and that body. So it is deeply moving, and but that's still very worth having. And it's the last video he did, obviously, and it's Johnny Cash and Hurt. We got a call, me and Kevin Godley, we got a call one day from the manager of Herbie Hancock. And the problem the manager had was that he couldn't get his act, Herbie, on MTV, this new station that showed videos of music, because he said they won't show black artists. Was there any way we could do a video, come up with an idea that was, interesting, and get on MTV, and have Herbie in it at the minimum one could, so that he would get on MTV. We thought about this, and then, as luck would have it, I think it was Kev I was away, he saw this magazine programme on BBC or something, and they were showing the work of this artist. He was a sculptor, and his sculptures were these robot type of things that he built out of spare parts that he found on rubbish tips. Kevin got the BBC to send us a copy of this magazine programme so I could see what he was talking about. And we agreed it would make a great subject for a video to try and use these crazy robots that Jim had built. So we went out and found where Jim lived. And I remember we pulled up outside the door of this slum, somewhere, God knows where, and we looked through the letterbox, and it was a very steep set of steps, very Dickensian, the whole thing in there, but hanging alongside the wall were all these kind of bits and pieces of arms and legs and God knows what. And we went in, and Jim lived with these. He lived with them, and he adored them, and they treated them as his children. And he lived with all these weird characters. And so, obviously, we were thrilled to do a video with this. And the track, Herbie's track with the scratching sound that was then, first time it'd been used on record, it was the perfect track to marry with these robots that did all these weird and wonderful movements that Jim generated with compressed air, I seem to remember. And I remember we asked Jim if he'd design a few other little characters, so that we came up with the idea of the concept of putting it in a house and making it all look very domestic, like the way Jim lived. And he built the baby that was banging the spoon, and the guy in the bed, which was doing all sorts of things. And it was the most fun we ever had doing this video. So that's why I've included it, because it was a pleasure to do. And of course, the video helped Herbie win a Grammy. And the Grammy people asked him if he'd do it live. And Herbie said he would, but would it be possible to bring some of his robots over to perform live on the stage at the Grammys? And Jim was thrilled at this. And the one robot there with the light and that comes out on the end of this big sort of telescopic rubbery thing, that's actually Veronica. Yes, she has a name. And Jim insisted that Veronica travel with him first class on the seat on the way out to Los Angeles for the Grammys. And indeed she did. And she's right there. She was there live with the kicking legs. But she had her own seat, did Veronica. She was a star. So this is Herbie Hancock and Rocket. Now, the next track I've chosen it's personal, because it was the start of a marvellous relationship with my dear, dear friend, so it's 20-odd years now, Trevor Horn, who had just finished producing the track Two Tribes for Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And he asked us if we would do the video. The interesting thing about this was that the record company were the first time a record company ever asked us to get involved in doing an extended version, because they'd done these things called remixes of these records, which were very long versions of the actual single. And they said that if there was anything that the record company could actually do to help offer up interesting ideas, which was unheard of. Record company usually just let you get on with it and hoped and prayed that you would give them a video that was worth showing. In this case, Paul Morley, who was the mastermind of ZTT Records and came up with all these weird and wonderful ideas, he gave us all these captions and encouraged us to go nuts. And we did. We went nuts, and we did a long version of this track with the blessing, which was fabulous, of the record company, ZTT. The concept behind the video was Ronald Reagan in a fight with Chernenko, who was then the president of Russia, the USSR those days. And we actually got worried that we would not be allowed into America because it was politically kind of a bit dodgy, because, they're sensitive about things like that, politics. But we were okay, they let us in. And in fact, it's been a marvellous experience having done that. So this is Two Tribes, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. When Peter Gabriel called me and Kevin up to see if we would do this video for this new single he's got coming out, it was a duet between him and Kate Bush. We were thrilled and delighted, and we came up almost instantly with an idea. That was always the criteria. If we came up with an idea, we'd do the video. If we couldn't come up with a good idea that we fancied, we generally wouldn't do a video. And we came up and we called him back with this idea. And we said, well, basically, Pete, it's you and Kate in a clinch. Think of it like that. You and Kate in a clinch. You're looking at each other, holding each other tight and, obviously very, very emotionally involved with each other. And behind you is the eclipse of the sun, which should look fairly spectacular, we hope. What do you think? Silence. Big silence. Big silence. Very long silence. In fact, there was... Pete, are you there, Pete? Pete, are you still there? Pete? He came back a while later, came back on the phone and said, okay. We thought, are you sure, Pete? Yeah, let's do it, it's good. And it wasn't till later that we realised how Pete must have felt when we suggested Pete and Kate in a clinch, because we didn't know. And actually, you probably won't be able to use this at all. But I'm telling you anyway. Because Pete and Kate, we didn't know Pete and Kate had been in a clinch, and he'd obviously gone to ask his wife for permission to be shown having a clinch with Kate again, after everything that must have happened. And we didn't realise. We were very embarrassed. But we did the video, but that is the story behind the video. It was very embarrassing, and I can't imagine what turmoil Pete must have gone through getting permission to be appearing in that video in that way. Anyway, Pete Gabriel.